Hi everyone and welcome to the video. In today's video we're going to talk about ball python regurgitation, which is not a super common problem, but it does happen, so you need to be aware of the causes and what to do if it happens to your snakes. So for all my regular subscribers, I'm really sorry that I've been off for a couple of months, but you know how it gets sometimes. You get busy, stuff happens, and things fall by the wayside. But I am going to try and keep it up with a couple of videos a week from now on. But first off, I think the most important thing to cover, and probably the most common cause of regurgitation in ball pythons, is low temperatures. So particularly during the winter, you need to keep an eye on your snake's temperatures. If your house gets below maybe 24 Celsius, which would be about 75 Fahrenheit, then you do need to have some kind of source of heat for your snake at night. I know there's a lot of people that say you only need a heat lamp during the day and no heat at night, and that's not really supported by very good evidence. That's more of a sales tactic, unfortunately, to sell heat lamps. So your snake needs to be kept at a suitable temperature day and night, and whether it's, I talk about nighttime because that's the most common time which temperatures drop and problems come up. So you do need to keep an eye on that, and that is definitely an easy thing to check. Check your temperatures with a digital thermometer probe, or even better, an infrared thermometer gun, and make sure they are warm enough. It's usually, I guess regurgitation could occur from high temperatures, but it's much more common with low temperatures because the snake's body simply says, I'm too cold. I'm not getting the heat energy to fire the metabolic processes needed to digest food, especially if it's a decent sized meal, and that will make it regurgitate. That's common in other species as well, other species of reptile. So that's a pretty easy one. I mean, that's a husbandry thing, right? Every time there's a problem, you start with your husbandry, you double check everything. The next one is a little more complicated and a little bit more difficult to deal with, and that is impaction. So sometimes a snake might regurgitate because it has previously either got impacted with hardened stools for whatever reason, or it swallowed something it shouldn't have. It's not super common in ball pythons, but it does happen, and if your snake is impacted, what you'll notice is a hardish lump down in this area. It's usually past the stomach, and it's usually down towards the intestines, so you get a hardened lump. It's not a swelling, as in inflammation, it is a hard lump, and you'll feel that. Now, impaction, the only home remedy is vibration therapy, which is, taking an electric toothbrush and vibrating it along the mass for sort of 10 minutes at a time, usually after a bath. But even that is best done under the supervision of a good vet. And often impaction will only be solved through surgery or something done under anesthesia. So really, my best advice is, if you suspect impaction, just go straight to a vet. Don't bother looking up stuff online and all the rest. Just find a good exotics vet and get it sorted that way, because that's something that I'm not really confident handling at home, as it were. And another reason, I guess, another quite common one, is rough handling. So I handle my snakes gently at all time because they're living things. I respect them. Especially after they've been fed. Usually I wouldn't handle them after they've been fed, but sometimes they'll do something like, tip over a water bowl or something, and for hygiene's sake, I might feel that, I need to clean them out, or I need to do something, and I'll need to handle them briefly. But rough handling is a problem I see all the time with ball pythons. A lot of people grab them, toss them around, and, even some quite well-known breeders that we see on YouTube toss them about as if they're objects, sort of shuffle them across the table and stuff like that. I think it's a macho thing. I think it's, I don't know, maybe guys who've never been handled that way by people themselves. Or maybe they have, maybe they like to take it out on animals, I don't know. But that is definitely something that can make them regurgitate, so that is not good. Always handle the animal calmly, and especially if it's fed. Wait 24 hours if you can. If not, if you have to handle it very, very calmly, very gently. Again, that's something on us, that's easy to do. Another thing is stress. Stress is more complicated to deal with because stress can be acute or it can be chronic. Acute stress is a a type of stress from a one-off thing, a short-term thing, so a trip to the vets could cause it. Coming to your home, if it's a new pet, that could cause acute stress as well. And in that situation, the regurgitating might be a very short-term kind of thing. Whoops. Might be a very short-term kind of thing, and it's really long-term, it won't be something to worry about. Chronic stress, on the other hand, is most often caused by something wrong with the husbandry, like being too cold, like I said, or, I mean, the most common thing is being in a situation, a vivarium that is too big, because a lot of people are sold like 5-foot vivariums for snakes this size, and they hate it. They feel too exposed, it's too big, they get lost. Even if you give them lots of hiding places, they get lost between the hiding places, they don't know where their favourite spot is. I know it's not something popular to say, but me, I don't sell vivariums, so I can kind of say what I like. My only real bias is wanting the hobby to continue and wanting people to keep keeping these snakes. I don't even breed that many anymore, so I've really got no biases. I can just tell you the truth that most people are ripping you off with the big vivariums. It's for them, it's for their money, it's not for the snakes. So for example, one snake I tried to raise in a vivarium. The vivarium looked awesome. It was nice. I think it was only a 3-foot, maybe a 4-foot vivarium. Anyway, I raised this female in it for a good however long. She was already a certain size when I got her, and she was growing nicely and feeding nicely. And at first she did well in the setup, but after around 6 months she started to regurgitate more and more often. I tried adding more clutter, doing different things, nothing worked. Eventually I gave up. I put her in a V70 rack. She started feeding better and she stopped regurgitating completely. She was just a very, very shy snake. They all vary, and a vivarium setup was not for her. So she'll always be in a rack or a tub setup. Pretty easy, pretty easy to solve, but it's not a solution everyone likes. I mean, personally, I can see why you wouldn't enjoy keeping your snake in a rack, because you barely get to see it, but some of them like it. So that's a tough one. After that, we've got, just checking my list, we've got inappropriately sized prey or overfeeding. Now, one thing that people do occasionally is they try and move a snake onto a much larger prey item suddenly, and sometimes ones, particularly like this one, who have a huge appetite, they'll eat that big prey item, they'll manage to get it down them, and then they'll chuck it back up. They'll throw it up, 6 hours later. And this is, again, it's easy to avoid. Don't try and do those big jumps in prey size. Don't try and overfeed them. Keep it slow and steady. Get their appetite rolling and their growth rolling, rather than trying to do big jumps up. And that's how they do best. That's how they grow best. So last but certainly not least, when you're talking about any condition with any animal, is parasites. Now I can see why perhaps intestinal worms would cause regurgitation, and that is always possible, but that's not that common in captive ball pythons. What is common is protozoa, so mainly flagellates and coccidians. And protozoans can cause all kinds of gut irritation, intestinal irritation that can lead to regurgitation and diarrhea and stuff like that. So if you've got a snake that's regurgitating and it has liquid diarrhea, and this is going on for probably months rather than weeks, you need to get it to an exotics vet and say you need a fecal float, a fecal exam, which is something they'll do to look for parasite eggs in the stools. Again, that's not something I'd be confident sort of taking care of at home. I would want to see a vet for that. Even if I am confident with lots of different issues with my ball pythons, there are some things where you just need to see a vet. So, sorry I can't tell you more about that. Last but not least, I've already said that. Okay, finally, just before I end this video, I did want to go over briefly the difference between, scaring the snake while I talk. I wanted to go over briefly the difference between regurgitation and vomiting. Remember, regurgitation is throwing something straight back up. It's like a wet rat, but almost undigested. Vomiting is much more serious because digestive acids are thrown up at the same time. It can quickly damage the snake's health. And a vomited rat doesn't look like a regurgitated rat. It is like part digested. It looks like a disgusting kind of molten creature. And it stinks. It will stink the whole room out, and you'll know if it's vomit. If it's vomit, yeah, I do suggest just going to the vets. Anyway, I hope this has been a really helpful video for you, and please do add in your own information, your own top tips and advice, and your own questions, so just to help to add to the topic if you're willing. But aside from that, please do like and subscribe. Thank you very much.